Hey, there you are. Glad you made it for part 2 of our project with this 1983 600 XL?
XL600R.
XL600R, to get it correct. You remember in the last video, we had a little situation with this bike that we picked up for a pretty good price, and we were told that the heads were rebuilt and adjusting the spark plug and it ran great. That would be incorrect because it will not turn over. It goes through one cycle, I guess, on the exhaust side fine with the valve clearance and piston, and then when you get to the intake, there's a little tiny problem of some sort of interference. That's how I would say. Tiny, just minor, probably runs fine. My name is Uncle Jake, by the way. This is Dr. Torque. If you're new, welcome to the channel. This is my dream bike from when I was a kid because I had a late 70s model that had 2 shocks, and it had the rear, and it had, rear, and it had maybe 4 inches of clearance. So you go over jumps, and even as a teenager, everything hurts really bad after that. But you know, you got to keep doing it. But this was the first year that had this beautiful monoshock with acres and acres of travel. Now this is a very big engine, and it turns out, actually Tom, you found this out, it's a one-off engine, sort of, is that correct?
Apparently this year only, it had some different things, like the next year they removed some stuff. As far as I know, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is the compression release on it. There's two compression releases. One is from the kickstart, it comes up and goes over here, and the other one, there's a brake-like thing here that you can hold with your hand, and it goes to here. So 2 different ways to relieve the compression a bit, so you can actually kick it over without breaking your foot off. It's a big, big engine. I mean, like, bigger than I certainly need. If you're a big guy, it works. Yeah, it was, so there's another problem. What we're hoping, is that maybe when they put the heads back on, this fellow that had it, he got that off a tooth or 2, or as Tom says, 10, maybe. So let me show you. You take these 2 plugs out right here, okay? What would you call this? This is the... It's the crankshaft thingy bob. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, whatever. It's a timing mark on the crankshaft.
Yeah, let's go with timing mark. So there's a timing mark, that's what I was trying to think of, in there, and then the number to the right. So we're gonna turn that until we get the top dead center. Again, very simple, you just crank it over. Well, simple on most ones. This one you have to crank it over a certain direction, forward or backwards, because there's some interference going on.
There's valves in the way.
And then once we do that, then we have to get into here. You have to take this off. Like, why don't you describe this part?
Well, on the head, there's a valve cover, obviously. And to adjust the valves, they have these nice caps here, which is great. But what we're after...
Yeah, you can see it on the next video if you want to know how to just adjust those. That's very...
But on this one, there's this lump here, this camel hump or whatever you want to call it. Under there is another sprocket that's for the timing chain on the camshaft. And so we need to see the marks on that sprocket. They're supposed to align with the top of the head. So we have to get this valve cover off to see it.
Yeah. We're not sure if we can actually get the valve cover off or up enough to check that, because that's step 1. The other side has a vertical mark that you got on. This has 2 horizontal, and you got to line those up with just basically the top of the heads, I guess, when you take it off.
Yeah, there's only one head.
But I keep calling it heads because everything else we work on has heads. This has a head, singular. So we don't know if we're going to have to see this right here. There's a bracket there, and we can maybe take these bolts out here and lift this, but we're not sure if we're going to have enough clearance to get this out. But we might be able to get it open enough to at least see if those are lined up. And if those are lined up, and that's not the issue, then it could be that it was off a tooth or 2, or again, more.
Well, if those are lined up, and
then it's not that.
Then it's not that, so it's not off a tooth.
Yeah, exactly. So we can check that without taking it out. Hopefully,
maybe.
We're hoping we don't have to take the engine out. We might though. And then also, yeah, these apparently have a problem with the chain tensioners in there too, a lot. And that might also be an issue.
No, I just mean to get the valve cover off.
Well, yeah, to get the valve cover off too. But there's a number of things. So let's dig in and see what we can find. Next, we are going to take off this bracket. So the bolt size here is a 12, and then the bottom one, the bigger one, is a 14. So 12, 12, 14.
What are those things you're taking off?
It's a bracket. What would you call it?
No, the fasteners themselves. You refer to them as bolts.
Did I? If you've watched this for a while, you know that Uncle Jake has some sort of a problem between bolts and nuts. And I often refer to bolts as bolts. I can't even say it. It doesn't even work in my head when I'm trying to explain the problem.
A bolt, Jake.
Everything is a bolt. Look, it's just a bolt. If there's a problem, take off the bolt. One other point to note, I guess I would say, is that this is not symmetrical. And one thing's easy is that there are two small holes, bolt holes on top and one larger one, but you can flip it, of course. So in this case, I'm looking for something of identifier. See how that back is pretty not shiny? But this is from the nuts. So that's how I'm going to remember which way they go. Shiny side out. And it works. So like this. Just put it back together the way it's going to go on the bike. You think these other torquing and stuff. That's why we call him Dr. Torque. Actually, we call him that because he's always busting bolts and torquing them down till they break.
No.
It's true. Oh, it's true. And then when you're doing something like that, he'll sit there in the background and go, snap! Okay, so check this part out. We got that bracket out, and now you can see there is not a whole lot of clearance here. So I don't know how much we're gonna be able to jimmy this around, but there's also this bolt right here we gotta get out. See, sometimes, eventually if you say bolt long enough, it's the right part. This bolt, I don't know if we can get a socket in there or anything long enough to extend that, but I'm really hoping that we can get this loose just at least enough to look in there and see if that's lined up, because if it's, my hope is, in a way, that is not lined up. Because if he got that off a tooth or two or whatever, then we have a chance to, we're gonna have more work, but the parts that we have could work. We might not need new parts. If it's lined up, we're probably gonna need new parts. But there's also those chain tensioners in there to deal with too. But we'll see. Either way, we gotta get this. So I'm gonna try to take this one out next and see if I can actually get it up and out. And it ain't gonna come out. It's really long, Tom says, but loose at least. So let's give her a whirl. Okay, so update. We're not going to be able to get, I think, with any reasonable methods, this bolt loose. It's just, you can't get a socket and a wrench on there, and you can't get a wrench on there. You can't get one on there either way. So what we're going to try to do next, because we're going to have to do this next step anyway, is just pull the bolts here on the front of this engine mounts, right? Like we got some here, we already took the top one out, and see if we can drop this down, possibly down low enough to get a regular socket on there. Because if it doesn't work, we're gonna end up having to take the engine out anyway, and those are the part of the steps. So hopefully that'll work, and we don't even have to take this off. Is that turning over there and wedging?
No, I'm holding it, but it's turning.
Is it?
The bolt is.
Okay.
And the nut's off, so I don't know if you want to try to tap it through from this side with a small screwdriver. You know, the incorrect tool.
The incorrect tool. I got a punch. Let's go over and get a punch. It's like I'm a real boy. So now we're gonna try dropping this one out. Oh, that came loose. It was a little tight, but not horribly bad. Blowing's a little nervous, and it's probably not gonna just go. Of course not. Well, let's look this baby over a little bit and see what might be holding it up. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could be holding it up. I just thought there might be a little bit of flex between all the carbs and the boxes and everything here. So we'll keep looking. More mounts than I thought. I haven't taken one of these out before, so there's actually, I've chosen to take this mount out next because I think there's another one right there is what it looks like. So that might allow a little bit of a drop. It may not, but it's still worth trying, because if it succeeds, it saves us a whole bunch of work. If it doesn't, well, we have to take it out anyway. So let's take this out and see what happens now. I got it loose already, so I'll pop it out with a punch. Okay, so we have that mount out, that bolt out now. And we do get a little bit of flex if we carefully put this in here. We get a little bit of drop, but it's very minimal. It's not enough. It's gonna get us, I mean, this is a little bit lower down here, maybe 16th or so. So that's not gonna be enough to get what we need. And as Tom likes to always say, sometimes the workaround is longer and more work than just taking extra steps, just taking it apart. So I think what the next step is getting this last, what I think is the last motor mount out. And these foot pegs are in the way. And so I could try to wrestle something in there, but this is where Tom was saying, look, there's 2 bolts here. Take them out. Let's take it out and get, oh, look how beautiful, I think we showed you that before. Look how beautiful that weld was. Beautiful. It's just as beautiful as the rest of the welds on this thing. The other one. Hopefully whoever did that welding only had one other thing to weld. Here's something that happens a lot of time when you're working on not just other people's work, but older rigs and stuff. They are using whatever they have laying around. I'm just not that kind of a guy. I can't take it. I want everything to be factory or better. And if we can, now there are circumstances where maybe I might use 2 different size heads on a bolt to make something work, but it drives me crazy. And here's what. This is a number, what is this? This is a 14, right? Yeah, this is a 14. That's a common size on the bike. Fits this one right here, no problem. But then you'll look over here and somebody got a new one and it fits in there thread-wise, but not head-wise. And I don't even know what that is. Is it metric standard? I mean, I'll figure that out, right? It's not like a super difficult problem. It's just like, just I don't know, just get the right bolt and do it right. You know what I'm saying? So, let me figure that out and then we'll get that last mount out.
The right bolt, it probably cost $8 from a Honda dealer. And the bolt he got was what was available at the hardware store, which was probably 39 cents.
Okay, I'm fine with that argument. Change them both. Change them both.
Remember what we did on Gary's?
I don't want to talk about that because I did remember that. So, interestingly enough, it's not exactly symmetrical. This side, we had to remove the little foot pegs because it was in the way. But on that side, it's no problem whatsoever. So, piece of cake. All right, it's looking more and more like we're just gonna have to pull this, or we're just gonna keep taking the parts off that we'd have to pull anyway, and maybe, who knows, maybe it'll end up being something where it just tilts or shifts or something. But I'm gonna start taking out some of these brackets here so that, and this doesn't have a removable bracket or wedge on both sides, but it's got one over there, so the engine's gonna have to go that way. So we'll take that and we'll see if we can shift it over. We'll probably have to pull the exhaust. That hopefully isn't a big deal since somebody had to have that out recently. That's one of the benefits. And we'll see if we can get this. We'll just kind of keep taking it one time. So I'm gonna finish taking these out and then that one, and then we'll see if we can shift it. Okay, exhaust out. One thing you're gonna wanna pay attention to when you take that out is these little, what do you even call these things? These are, I don't know what these are. There's a gasket in there, and then these are on the inside of the exhaust manifold, I guess you'd call. Anyway, they fall out, so they've obviously been changed. We found a bag with something in there, and we weren't sure what it was. Now we know it was the old version of these, so that's cool. So that was so loose it was not tightened properly, actually. So that was good to find. That would have definitely rattled loose over time. So, okay, that's done. And now we will get that bracket out on that side. And we should have this thing semi-loose. All right, so we just pulled there's bolt here, and where's the other bolt?
Right here on the side.
Right here. To just get this air box loose a little bit so we can push it forward and get it free from the carbs. This side's pretty easy. The other side apparently is not cooperating as much. But it's out now. Okay, so we've got that moved back. We got these loosened, and you just gotta kind of pry this. That was a little weirdly wedged on there, so I had to use a little pry bar persuasion and pop that out. What I'm hoping is that the carb can just hang there with all the cables and stuff while we move the engine out. So that's what we're gonna try to do, but that's a good step. That's loose. So, and maybe we can tuck it back in there or something. This may or may not work, but we've got enough loose now that we can just shift this over quite a bit, which is enough to get onto that right there, the bolt in question.
Okay, that's one you were after.
Well, we did it. That's the one.
It
That was
took 3 hours.
I don't think, I mean, we were only taking out stuff that we had take out anyway, right?
Sure.
He always says this. And sometimes he's right. This time I think he's a little bit right, but that's cool. So now I'll finish taking off some other bolts or figure out where we're at. And
we have the rest of the valve cover bolts to take off.
Yep.
We've already got all the linkages unhooked.
Yeah,
this one here and this one here.
Yep, and then this one down here, just in case.
That one doesn't count.
This also was totally ran up against a sprocket like this. So hopefully that didn't run like that for long. It doesn't look damaged because it goes back around all those. So check that stuff again, whether it's you or somebody else that did the work, because that's not very good. Okay, all right, let's keep taking out some bolts though. This is exciting. Heads up, these are all different sized. Some of these you can tell because obviously this drops down a little lower. That's a little taller rise on that one when you go down, but you're gonna want to pay attention to those and put them probably back in as you take this off or an order or something. I mean, you could figure it out, but you wouldn't want to have one that was maybe slightly different. I don't know if that's the case, and put it in the wrong one, try to crank down and break something. So something as I was taking these out, remember I said these are all different heights? This is a longer one right here. It makes total sense. These two look like they should be the same. This one looks like it should be a longer. When I took it out, this one and this one I think were swapped. So just keep an eye on that. That's because they're in a certain order, I guess, doesn't mean somebody else didn't do it. Hopefully it didn't screw something up by having too long a bolt, because that's what happened here. Too long a bolt went into that hole and it was tight. So I hope that's okay. I think it is, but we'll see. So we have this up now enough to look to see if those timing marks are there, and I don't see it. I guess we're gonna turn this until we see them, and then we'll check to see if it's lined up on the other side. So it might be off. I mean, there's a possibility of this.
It's almost guaranteed.
Of something.
Ooh, that turns really easy.
It does, huh?
Yeah, so are you saying turning up there?
Yep. Okay, go back. Go back. There we go. There's the lines right there. See the little mark? Go back the other way just a skosh. Right there. And that's about as close we're going to get. Okay, see that mark right on that side? And then there's one here. It's slightly down on this side. But that's close enough for me now to go look at the other side and see if it's top dead center, or if that's what they goofed up. Let's hope that's what they goofed up. That is not top dead center on this side.
Do you see a letter of any kind?
No, nothing. There's nothing. That appears to be the problem. That chain is not, they didn't get this lined up. It's not top dead center on that side, or it is now, and it is definitely not top dead center here. And there's no mark in there of any kind. So
it was assembled incorrectly.
That's what it appears to be, that when he got the heads rebuilt on this, that he just put it together wrong. Well, that confirms, as we say, that this is not set up properly in there. So really what we've got to do now is get that engine out. I mean, I just don't see any other way. As much as I would like to, I think you would agree, that's the next step. We got to get it out. We got to be able to get this cover off so we can adjust that timing. And then we need to also do a compression check, because if this guy was like jumping up and down to try to get this to start, the concern is it bent valve.
Yeah, the two intake valves could be bent, or one of them, or whatever.
Yeah, so compression check, fix the timing so that it turns over without interference, and then check it. So, all right, well, that's the next video. Check some more stuff out. Give us a thumbs up if you would. We appreciate it very much. We'll take you out to Fistful of Friendship. Whoop-ow. Anyway, you'll be able to see, as I shine this in your light, I shine this in your light. You're so bright, I shine this in your light. It works. Okay, it's a close-up of my eyeball. Everybody needed to see that. Eyeball, see? It's saying, we symmetrized it.
Oh, are you coining a new word?
Yeah, symmetrized. We symmetrized. Yeah. Wow, that was some janky camera work right there. Oh, right, because it's
goes
yeah,
through a
it's-
banjo fitting.
It is a part of the flow.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's what this thing should play whenever you,
It's a banjo, both.
whenever you drive it. Busted, but